Hi everyone. I hope you guys are doing well and surviving the lockdown. Um, it's tough, eh? I don't even know what day we're on now, and I don't even know how many days we have left. I have a feeling that the government is going to extend the number of days, so it's no use even doing a countdown anymore. We just have to stay safe and stay indoors and keep other people safe as well. Um, but I'm telling you, I'm dying to go outside and just see people and talk to people um, outside the walls of this house. I need to get out of this house. I don't know if you guys are feeling like having a bit of cabin fever. Maybe it's just me, but I'm feeling like I need to get out of this house. I'm tired of going from one room to the other. I need to go somewhere. I can go to the moon. I can go to Bangladesh. I can go up a mountain. I can go to the sea. I just need to go somewhere. Um, so it's tough, and I'm sure it's tough for everybody. So when people say we're all in this together, we really are all in this together, and hopefully we'll all make it safely through this period. So today I'm going to talk about Zoom, and I think for anybody who's been working remotely or studying remotely, trying to connect with colleagues, trying to connect with your teachers or your students, etc., a lot of people are using Zoom to connect. But there's a couple of issues that have come out around the security around Zoom and also some data privacy concerns that have come out. So I think it's quite interesting for people to have the conversation around Zoom because so many people, like millions and millions of people across the world, are actually using this platform. And some people are not aware of the kind of issues that have come out from using this platform. So basically, Zoom is a peer-to-peer video conferencing software, which means you can remotely connect and have video calls with other people. It also has like a chat functionality. And it also, a lot of people are using it to host like webinars, especially people who had, let's say, events that were scheduled before this global pandemic, and then now they're moving things online, and a lot of people are now using Zoom to do the presentations that they would have done physically, and using Zoom to do those presentations remotely. So it's become quite a popular platform. So the company's headquarters are in San Jose in California, and it's also listed on the Nasdaq. So I think one of the main reasons why the software is so popular is because the software is really easy to use. It's easy to set up. It's easy to get people to join on the call. And you can host for a limited period of time. I think it's about 40 minutes or 45 minutes. You can host up to 100 people on your video call for absolutely free. So you don't need to pay. So in that regard, a lot of people are using it because it's quite a cheap option to have a significant number of people on your call for no cost to yourself. So the Zoom story is that the founder used to work for Cisco and he used to work on WebEx. WebEx is also a very popular video conferencing tool, and he left Cisco around 2011 to start his own company and to build his own platform. He probably had his own ideas about how he could do things better than WebEx. And 2 years later, he then launched Zoom. So in 2013, Zoom was launched into the market. So it's not a new software. It's been around for at least 7 years. So they've been around. They've had time to stabilize the platform, to iron out whatever initial issues they might have had when they launched. And it seems that the person who founded Zoom probably has a passion for this kind of technology, this kind of peer-to-peer connectivity. So the COVID-19 pandemic has seen a huge spike in people working from home, people needing to connect remotely more than usual. And Zoom has, fortunately for them, been the most popular platform that people have turned to during this period. I think the company said that last year they were seeing about 10 million people jump onto a Zoom call per day, and this has increased to about 200 million people jumping on a Zoom call every single day as of March and April 2020. So that's a huge growth and a huge number of people who are turning to the platform. So it also puts the platform under the spotlight, under scrutiny, and some issues that were probably there before that people weren't aware of are now actually coming to the forefront, and people are talking about it. So there's been a number of cybersecurity research companies that have published information around the issues with Zoom, the data privacy issues, as well as the cybersecurity issues. And I will post those kind of reports, the links to those reports, in the description of this video, so that if you do want to do additional research for yourself and find out exactly where all the issues are coming from, you can go and read up on the research that these companies have done. So it's not just one company, by the way. It's a number of cybersecurity companies that have come out and published some really scathing reports about Zoom. And they've also conceded as a company that they've fallen short of data privacy expectations, as well as cybersecurity expectations. I think the CEO even published an apology on his blog and said that they're going to halt any further new feature developments to deal with the security issues and the data privacy issues. So they're not denying that these issues exist. They concede that the issues do exist. And I guess for a company of that size, we have to wait and see what they actually do to address these issues and how quickly they resolve these things. If we look at the number of people who are using these platforms every day and the kind of issues that have come out, we would expect that there should be a lot of improvement relatively soon. So Zoom collects a lot of personal information about people who participate in Zoom calls, and they collect probably a lot more information than what you imagine. But the company doesn't actually say in their data privacy policy how they use that information, either for marketing, advertising, or other business activities. So the data privacy policy, as it is, it renders each person's right to privacy basically useless, and it limits how much autonomy the person has in protecting their privacy on the platform. So there are three things that I think you should consider around data privacy when using Zoom. The first is what information Zoom themselves as a platform collect about you as a participant. The second is what they do with it, how they use that information. And the third is what information the host who's hosting your call can collect about you without you perhaps even knowing, and what they can do with that information and how that information can be used. So Zoom's privacy policy claims that they have the right to collect and store personal data, both now and in the future, perpetually. They don't say for how long. And they can share it with third parties, such as advertisers. This includes your content, the content contained in the cloud recording, everything that you type in instant messages, whether it's to everyone publicly or the private messages that you might send to someone in the group. The files that you share during the call, and if you write anything on the whiteboard, that information, whatever information is shared during the service, is stored by Zoom, and they have the right basically to use that information. And consider that the video recording can also be transcribed. There's transcribing software, so they can transcribe that video recording, and that also can be stored and shared by them. So the host on a Zoom call is the person who invited you to the call, the person who owns that call. And they also have a number of privileges on the call, especially if it's a corporate account. So they can record the call, and Zoom doesn't give you, as a participant, any option to be excluded from the recording of the call. And if you have no idea that the host will be doing that recording, and you're not tech savvy and you're not familiar with the platform, you might not even be aware that it's being recorded. So once that call has been recorded, all the information that is shared during that discussion is on the call, and all the chat messages as well are included in there. And once again, that call can be recorded either to the and saved on the host's local drive, hard drive, or they can save it on the cloud. They can share it with other people, whoever they wish to share it with. Again, there's no time limit to how long they can keep that call. They own that particular recording. Now, even if you trust your host that they will not share your information inappropriately or share the discussion inappropriately, not everybody is equally sophisticated when it comes to protecting personal information. Not everybody is aware that they need to protect personal information. And there are some people who use Zoom for consultation with medical professionals, for telemedicine, and so on. And the participants who might probably be a patient might not necessarily understand that this call is being recorded, or how that recording will be protected after that recording has ended. So it does put you as a participant at risk of your personal information being disclosed or being shared after the call, either immediately or sometime in the future. You just don't know when. Zoom also provides the host of the call with a feature called the attention tracker. And this is quite an interesting one. It allows the host to monitor whether you as a participant have clicked away from the Zoom window for more than 30 seconds. So you could be probably opening up a Word document to take notes on what is being said, or you could just be browsing on the internet. There's no way of the host knowing what you're actually doing, whether it's part of what the call is about, or whether you've gone off to do your own thing. But all that they know is that you've been flagged by the attention tracker, that you've now been away for longer than 30 seconds and you're no longer paying attention to the call. Now, you might not care that Zoom has flagged you to the host, but there are some instances if the host is perhaps your boss or a client or your teacher or a lecturer, it might flag you in an unfair manner that creates an impression to the host that you lack seriousness, or you're not taking what they're saying seriously, and you've lost interest in the conversation. And this is especially important because of the social distance between us during this period where people are not able to read your body language and to see if you've stepped away from this particular screen purely because you're taking notes and you really are attentive to the conversation, or rather because you've lost interest and you'd rather be doing something else. Zoom also allows the administrator to see a lot of information that participants might not be aware of. So as a participant, the administrator can see what operating system you're using. They can see your IP address. They can see your location data. They can see the device information of each participant. And this device information includes the type of machine. So whether you're using a PC, a Mac, a Linux mobile phone, etc. They can see the specs of the make or the model of your peripheral audiovisual devices. So, like your cameras that you're using, your speakers, the names of those devices. So, if you've given your devices names, they can see, for example, what you've named your AirPods, etc. The administrators also have the ability to just join any call that is being hosted on their account at any given time in the organization without any in the moment consent or warning from the attendees of this call. Another negative phenomenon that Zoom participants have experienced is something called Zoom bombing, where uninvited guests just enter the call and they'll usually shout some abusive or racist remarks. And on some calls, they share pornographic or inappropriate images or videos. This actually happened here in South Africa on a government call where, some people Zoom bombed the call, which was supposed to deal with important government issues. And they shared pornographic material. So this is quite a negative experience that a lot of people have experienced on Zoom. So it's also been reported that both the Zoom iOS and the Zoom Windows app has been found to be sharing information inappropriately. So the Zoom iOS app was found to be sharing Zoom user data with Facebook without having adequate disclosures about that activity. And what was more worrying is that this included user information for users who didn't even have Facebook accounts. So this is a major breach of privacy and security that people have experienced on Zoom. Another independent security research company found that there were more security issues with Zoom, with the Zoom Windows and Mac apps. On the Windows app, it was found that login credentials was leaked to hackers. And on the Mac side, it was found that Zoom's installer client did not require explicit permission from the user to be installed. So this created a new threat of Zoom being accessible to hackers as a remote access tool. Over 500,000 Zoom login credentials have been auctioned on the dark web as well as on hackers' websites. So if you do have a Zoom account, it's probably a good idea to check that your email address that you use to log into Zoom has not been pawned on the dark web. And also, it's probably a good idea if you are one of those people who uses your password, the same password across multiple platforms, to change your password. Either way, whatever the case, if you have a Zoom account, you need to just change your password immediately. Because you're probably vulnerable with all the data leaks and all the user accounts that have been compromised on the Zoom platform. So, in essence, this video conferencing app has been called out for having virtually almost all the security threats that it could possibly have, and breaking all common cybersecurity and data privacy protocols along the way. So, if you're saying that you have no choice but you have to use Zoom, because maybe your organization has taken a policy position that this is the primary tool for communication this period, and you're wondering what can you actually do. First of all, I would say that knowledge is power. So arm yourself with knowledge, understand the risks that the platform poses, but also share those risks with the decision makers. So you might be able to influence up or influence sideways depending on who's actually making the decision on what tools and platforms to use. And you might be able to share that information and find an alternative to that. And if you are not able to successfully influence, I think the first thing is to minimize the risk to yourself. So firstly, always try to keep your camera and mic off unless you're actually speaking. And if you feel that you must have a camera turned on, choose a background for your video. So you can allow Zoom to choose a background for the video stream, or you can pick a video from your hard drive and use it as your background. And this is important because when you are streaming from your home, as all of us are at home, you might have something in the background on the bookshelf, things in your room. Maybe you streaming from your bedroom, items that you might not want other people to know about, co-workers or clients to see things that you have in your house, not necessarily because it's wrong, but just for your own privacy. And you might not have a problem sharing it with the person that you have in the call at the moment, but as we've said, these things are shared later on. So try to minimize the personal information that is exposed in the video about your personal surroundings, your personal home, pictures of your children, for example, entrances into your house, that sort of thing. Also, I've already mentioned that right now would probably be a good time to change your Zoom password, and God forbid you use the same password elsewhere, which is really bad practice. But if you have been doing that, probably now is a good time to change that bad habit. And look, I would also suggest that you don't use an important email address to log into Zoom. So create what we call a burner email address. So an email address that you don't use for any important activity, that you can just use to sign into Zoom, just to minimize the personal risks to yourself. So instead of using your business email account to log into Zoom, create like one of those free internet email accounts like a Yahoo or Hotmail, if Hotmail still exists, a Gmail account that you can then use to log into the platform, just to minimize the risk in case of future data leaks or other security threats that we don't know about. If you do have the autonomy to change what video conferencing app you use, I would suggest that you do consider using something else that is more secure, and that can also give more comfort to people that you invite onto calls. A number of very high-profile companies have actually banned the use of Zoom for their employees within their organization. These include Elon Musk has banned Zoom from SpaceX. NASA has banned the use of Zoom. Siemens, Standard Chartered Bank, Google, New York City schools have stopped using Zoom. The German Health Ministry, the German Foreign Ministry, the United States Senate, the Australian Defense Force, the Taiwan government, Singapore teachers are banned from using Zoom, the Indian government, and so on. It's a really long list of organizations that have banned the use of Zoom purely because of the security issues on the platform. So if you do have the autonomy to make that decision to choose another platform, I would really suggest that you do so. Obviously, this is a very good platform, as I said in the beginning. So it has value if they can fix the issues, but I think we need to actually see them fixing the issues before we continue using the platform. So I would suggest that we do minimize the use of that platform for now. So, what other alternatives can you use if you're not using Zoom? There are so many alternatives out there. And the most important question would be what were you using Zoom for? So if that would probably be the driver to see what is the best alternative for you, and you might find that the alternative actually works even better than Zoom. You just didn't consider anything outside of the most popular option because Zoom has been really popular during this period. But one of the good alternatives is Microsoft Teams. It's a built-in video conferencing which is built into Office 365. So if you have Office 365, you can use it. But anybody else can sign up for a free version of Teams using the email address. I think the low tier version allows you to have up to 300 people on the platform. And it allows one-to-one or group video sharing, screen sharing, and sharing files. And the pro with Microsoft Teams is that it's part of the Office suite. So people are familiar with that platform, with that Windows platform. And the con, obviously, compared to Zoom, it's slightly more expensive. The other option that you can use is Cisco WebEx. This is actually a very popular video conferencing platform that has been around for a long time. It's a very robust video platform. Video conferencing platform. And the free version actually has a lot to offer. You can have up to 100 participants on your video call for an unlimited time period. It also allows HD video, screen sharing, and recording options. Another good video conferencing option is GoToMeeting from LogMeIn. It has the audio and video sessions. It allows for screen sharing, and they also have a mobile app for Android as well as iOS. Skype is also a very popular video conferencing call that is now owned by Microsoft. The pro is that it's popular and probably a lot of people are familiar with how to use it, so even your participants would be familiar with how to use it. And you can have up to 50 participants for an unlimited amount of time for free, which also makes it ideal for smaller companies. And it's a platform that works well. Cisco Jabber is another tool that employees can use to engage and communicate with each other. A lot of people only use Jabber just for instant messaging, but you can also use it for audio as well as video calling. Google Meet is an option that you can use. It's part of the Google Suite portfolio. It used to be called Google Hangouts, but it's now called Google Meet. And you can use it for video meetings because it's part of the G Suite. for subscribers, and then also external participants who don't necessarily have G Suites can also connect. Blue Jeans is a very good option. It's a smaller cloud-based video conferencing service that offers high quality streaming. Um, the pro is that it's really high quality in terms of the screening, and it was the first cloud service to connect desktops with mobile devices and room systems into one video meeting. So regardless of where the different participants are joining from, they can all join on the same call. And Blue Jeans makes it very easy and quick to join meetings, so people can work productively from wherever they are. I'm also going to mention Adobe Connect because it's quite a good platform that you can use for web conferencing for your online meetings, e-learning, and webinars. So if you are having to teach or people online, Adobe Connect is a good platform to consider. So if you are having to host webinars with large groups of people, Global Meet is probably a good option to consider. Global Meet is a best-in-class webinar tool for large groups. It makes it easy for people from around the world to connect with your webinar, and you are able to then share the video call as well as have multiple presentations shared on the webinar. Blackboard Collaborate is another very good dynamic tool to use if you are doing teaching and learning over the internet during this time. It allows your learners to be actively engaged and participate in the classroom training, and it also allows for peer-to-peer learning and sharing of information. It gives that feeling of being face-to-face without actually being face-to-face. The next option that you can consider is Easy Talks, and this is a web and video conferencing service that you can use to make your meetings more collaborative, and it does offer also high definition streaming, audio chats, instant messaging, screen chats, recording. They have a whiteboard, etc. So it's also a very good option for collaborative efforts while socially distancing. Another option to consider is a platform called Uber Conferencing, which offers free conference calls with a visual interface. So you can see who's on the call, you can see who's talking, and you can share your slides and so on. And you can start off using it for free. I'm gonna mention one that you can probably use for your sales presentations or your sales calls, which is called Zoho Meetings. It allows you to reach global customers within minutes to do demos, product demos, or sales presentations, and hopefully close deals faster without traveling. It's easy to use, easy to administer, and it's probably more usable than Zoom. So I've presented just a couple, more than a couple, probably a dozen options that you can use as an alternative to Zoom. And I'm hoping that somewhere amongst those alternatives, you'll find one that's more suitable for you and more suitable for your organization. But if you can't, you can also do additional research. There are so many other web conferencing tools that I've personally used or participated in, which I haven't mentioned here because I could sit all day just talking about all the different platforms that are available. Obviously, if you do want to connect with me to see what else you can do in your organization, or what special requirements you have, special advice you need, I'm always available. You can always connect with me. But I think during this period, we should, as I've said in the previous video, just take additional safety measures to protect ourselves, to protect our businesses, more especially as we are working from home, we're working outside of the office environment, and you know, try to protect our personal data. And be more cognizant in terms of what information is going out there, and who has access to it and what they're actually doing with it. So I hope this video has helped you to decide, especially if you've got special information that you share in your video calls, if you've got children that participate in the calls, I would say you really need to consider using something else other than Zoom. If you a government entity, and you're sharing information that might not necessarily be public knowledge, or information that might be considered sensitive, or even just ordinary business information that you don't want circulating out there, or you want to just give people an additional sense of comfort that they can feel that the platforms that you are using in your organization, in your team, is secure, and you are taking their personal well-being and their personal rights into account when deciding what platforms to choose. I think there's value in really vetting out each platform that we use, and holding organizations and companies like Zoom to a higher standard than probably what they've been holding themselves to. If we don't, as consumers, demand more, and hold people to account for our security, our protection, then we just as much to blame as them for disregarding our security, having our information circulating in the dark web, and having privileged or sensitive information being exploited for commercial use. So thank you very much for watching this video, and please share this video with your friends or colleagues who think they would benefit from this, and yeah, we'll chat in the next video.